He's done what every author I work with stream to get bought their story bought to be a movie. And he least can mention this, where a lot of times you never can mention it. So my guest today is the author of White Python World Tour, Travis Kennedy. Travis, thanks for stopping by, man. And congrats on Paramount. And it's got to feel great. You put the effort in, you started to learn to write and wrote books, and you said, now you've done what every writer dreams of, right?
Yeah, I hope so. And first of all, Neil, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here talking to you and talking about this project that has been in the works for years. And finally, I can talk about it out loud. And certainly, the film adaptation is super exciting, and just being able to share it is just an absolute dream come true. You get that just right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Every writer dreams this. Get my book into a movie. So, for example, my agency partners with a company called Storehouse Media Group, and what we do is we take your story from beginning to screen. I market for them as my agency, but also do a podcast with them, and I'm also involved in helping try to do that because there's authors out there that have a story that want to do it, but
Yeah.
the dream of getting the big boys to do it is unbelievable. So tell us that story, first of all, how you became a writer, first of all.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like I've been a writer since I was 6, but not trying to do it full time for a very long stretch of my life. I wrote as a hobby, as a vocation forever, and then I got into working. I've worked in government and politics for a little over 20 years, and that's just where all of my creative energy was going, was the work. But fortunately, as my career changed, I started to find more time and space to write again, and I was doing it as a hobby again, but starting to try to find homes for the things I was writing instead of just myself. And I started with short stories and worked my way up to writing a novel and then another novel, and that's sort of the one that caught on and got me an agent, and that was 4 years ago. So we've been working ever since to bring these worlds that I'm working on out and share them with everybody. And I'm now just a few weeks away, finally, from having something in hard copy that you can buy in the stores.
And that's the exciting thing. And it's not even released yet. And so this is your first, and then you started writing more, but you can't say about it, right?
Yeah,
As you talked about in the green room. And
yeah. So I gave some
is that
enticing.
more where you're writing stories for films, not just write books?
Well,
Or
I'm doing a little of both now. In the first couple of years, when I was kind of ramping up with my agent, I had several books that I wanted to plot out and write, and I have a couple of them kind of in the can, ready to go, and they're all in different stages of hopefully being adapted for the screen. And so while I'm working on my next book, at the same time, I'm also developing separately my first just straight up screenplay. So I've had a lot of time to line these things up, and now I have this capacity to just try and make as much as I
what were you
can.
in politics if you know how to do this? Because this is a hard job. You could create a course on teaching people how to do this. I talked to another author and they're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, why would you want to teach people how to do this? Because there's so many authors budding, wanting writers saying, how do I sell my screenplay? How do I sell
Yeah.
my book? You did it.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean,
Well, but so,
it's
but it could become a course, but just and then guiding people and coaching people to these deals. But when you look at your wall, the wall of fame, as I call it, your picture with President Obama, President Clinton, what did you do in politics?
Yeah, I came up working in the Maine state legislature, and I started shortly after college as a legislative assistant. And the great thing about the Maine legislature is it's sort of small enough that you can really climb the ladder if you put in the work and are good at it. And so I was chief of staff to 2 consecutive floor leaders in the state legislature. And then I went on to work for Senator Angus King, a United States Senator from Maine, one of the best people I've ever known. And then for the last 8 years, I've worked for just the local county government where I live. So I've kind of done it all, but there's always been sort of a level of messaging and communication in there. And it's different from writing fiction, but it's not in that you always have to remember that you're not the only one in a conversation. You're trying to
Were you
connect with
writing?
people.
Were you writing speeches for them.
His speeches and working on policy and press materials,
Okay, so
and
press.
then direct
That helped
communication.
you. That
Press
helped
helped a
you.
lot, and it's
Did
yeah,
you have
writing quick and clean.
relationships that helped you to get Paramount? Meaning, like getting one. As I talked to, 6 degrees of separations more than you've ever people can imagine.
Yeah,
Like literally, maybe having that opportunity that you picked up the phone and called for them, and you met somebody who knows who's connected to that person, who's connected to that person. That's the only way to get. It's who you know in a lot of ways to get you
yeah,
in front of people, and it's
it
called
is,
hard
and
work too. It's called hit the pavement.
yeah, and I mean, I knew nobody in publishing or film or anything. And this is what I hope your listeners who might be thinking about trying to do this can hear. I'm a middle-aged T-ball coach in Maine, and I wrote a book and it won a contest. And one of the judges of the contest said, "Let's get you an agent." And she offered some names and I reached out to them and I got just this amazing agent based in LA. And that's the who you know thing, because now I had somebody who has relationships in publishing and in film who's able to get in front of them and say, I wouldn't bring this to you if I didn't think that you would like it. So finding that one person was my foot in the door, and now she's created these relationships for me that are hopefully going to pay off for more work in the
But I
future.
think you're learning now what you learned is going to help you on the long term promoting this book, right?
Yeah.
What you learned and how much did that help you in this process of promoting this book so far?
Um,
With the relationship, being able to being part of press, doing all those different things, working with your team to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that discipline, as I'm sure you know from your working with your clients, message discipline, nothing that I say today isn't something I practiced before we got on the phone together, and understanding, again, I think that the key thing working in politics and writing fiction is remembering that you're making a connection with people and you're finding common ground and things that they might see in themselves, and that works when you're trying to convince them to engage politically, but also when you're trying to get them to engage in a story. And that has translated from my work in government really cleanly over to writing.
All right, so let's talk about the White Python World Tour.
Yeah.
How did this come up? Are you a rock star and you're not going to tell us?
I'm not, no, but I mean, I was a kid in the 80s, and when
80s
these
is the greatest music ever.
it's the
Bottom line.
best decade for a lot of things.
It
And it's so
is.
funny, like we laughed at the 80s forever, and I feel like we're finally appreciating it for what it was, which was just this explosion of joy and action. And it came from such a different place in the 70s. And I think we're finally able to really look back and love it for what it was. And so growing up then, I saw these bands, these glam metal bands, and they were like the Muppets to an 8-year-old. They were goofy and they made these wild videos and their music was fun. And so I feel like I had forever thought there's a fun story to tell with them in that world. And when I hook on to it, I'm ready to go. And like 20 years ago, I started picking up the autobiographies and watching films about the bands and sort of figuring out these things about them that I think made them unique, which is that they were really misfits. They had to scrap against every hard odd you could imagine from when the time they were little kids, and they found each other and they unlocked these superpowers, and that was the basis for a really cool story, I thought. And then Patrick Radden Keefe put out this podcast called Winds of Change, about how this rumor that the CIA wrote the song Winds of Change by the Scorpions, and that was it. I mean, I thought, oh my god, that's it, they're spies, that's the story. And it just rolled from there.
And when you create stories, they're interesting, right? I mean, the interesting, like how you were discovered an agent, said people said, this is unbelievable, this story, and this is why this is potentially going to be a film, right? It's just like it just fits.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think I'm capable of writing straight up genre material where it's sort of like, here's the cookie cutter, it's a cop, and nobody believes him, even though he's a genius or whatever. I just have whatever weird stories in my head. That's what I have to write. And so here again, I'm very fortunate that both my agent and my publisher at Doubleday are people who love that, who are saying, I don't care if I don't recognize it. I love it, and I want to help share it with people.
Is the goal to be a New York Times bestselling author? Is that a goal of
Well,
yours?
I mean, It'd be nice. It would. I think it's hard to go into your debut saying, if these things don't happen, I consider it a failure because I'm jumping out of a plane and I don't know if the parachute's going to open.
But
So
this is really the debut novel.
this is
So
it.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
I don't know
mean,
what's happening. Yeah,
the big thing is you Paramount, meaning this is at least starting your branding.
yeah.
And I think that's the key is now what's next for you. And there's a lot because you're going to do this full time. So you
Mhm.
really are going to put it all out there. But the success of when it comes out, I could be saying you want to be a New York Times bestselling author, and you're going to be texting me a month later, Neil, I am. That
Yeah.
because till the book comes out. So that process is amazing. And what has the feedback been people who've read the book so far? The
Uh,
original. That's one thing I keep telling authors when I represent them later. I say, as a marketer, I said, "Did you test this to market?
yeah, yeah,
Did you put this out there to see if it's really a fit and all that?
yeah.
What does Doubleday do and all these different people in that behind the scenes before the book's even released?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much work done in the 6 to 9 months running up of Doubleday,
That's the point.
and
Six to
that's it. Yeah,
nine.
but you don't see it. We don't see it out in the world, but they have spent months and months. Doubleday and my publicist Wunderkind, who are great, getting people to agree to read a book by a debut author they've never read before. I mean, that takes work. People who are reviewers and influencers and who are in this world, they get stacks of books, a foot high every week, and they have to
Oh,
decide
totally.
which ones to give their effort to. So that's all of that run up of these months is just saying, please try this. We think you'll like it. And so the feedback that has started to roll in has been wonderful. I mean, people are getting the vibe I'm going for, which is it's celebratory and it's fun and it's meant to be funny. And it's kind of this sort of Ted Lasso vibe, like an underdog sports story. And people are getting it. And it really means so much to me to see that what I was trying to do is what people are seeing when they're reading it.
And that feedback helps you for writing your next book, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to know that what you're trying to do is working. And if it's not, if people aren't in the same wavelength that I think I am, then I have to learn that. I have to learn how to either write more with better focus or try something else. But what's been really rewarding is seeing, yeah, the way that I write and the stories I want to tell are connecting with the early readers.
What has been the best feedback you've gotten so far that you're going to utilize moving forward after having these people review
Um,
your book?
I think my favorite thing that I've seen a few times is this is unlike anything I've ever read before, and I can't wait to see what he does next.
Well, then you have
So
to duplicate that person. That's becomes your raving fan.
yeah,
How can you make 100 of those, thousands of those, 10,000s of those, and 100,000? Then you're going to be the guru, and this is going to be your life.
yeah. I mean, I think you're an expert at this. So much of the goal is getting people who you connect with to do the selling for you, to if they liked it to share with their friends, buy a copy for their parents, post on social media.
One place for you to go
So,
is TikTok. TikTok is
mhm.
building a huge author audience. If you get where you spend time reviewing and going live on TikTok with this, because you are published. See, this is the other thing. Published author is another big part of this. Then people are
Mhm.
going to say, okay, I'm going to get behind you. Who are going to be affiliates for you are going to be your biggest fans. They're going to, your raving fans.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that the reviews help because then, boom, you get this out there and then you're rolling. They know what they're doing. Your publicist does and your publisher does. But the extra effort you put into this can make you the guy.
That's the difference maker. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be your first books. I've talked to some of these authors. It's 10 books. It's
Yeah.
but making the sales now. And then 10 books later is going to be your game changer. And then you're sitting here. But if the White Python World Tour becomes a successful movie, I won't be, you'll come talk to me because at least I predicted this stuff. But everybody else, you're gonna
You
be
were
like,
here
I don't have the
early.
time. I'm always going to be that adopter, man, and say,
Yeah.
okay, let me hit this up. If I would go through my list of 15,000 people I've interviewed and spend time just reconnecting with every one of them, I'd see this is the mistake we people make is your network is your net worth. The end of the
Yeah.
day. That's it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, that's exciting. So what do you think would be that seller? People who love the 80s,
Mhm.
people who love to laugh
Yeah.
and stay on your seats because it's going to be a movie soon.
Yeah,
That's
I think it's yeah, I mean, I think it's the sort of late Gen X generation who are kids and teenagers. And it's funny, a lot of people who are older, who are in their 70s and 80s have read it and said, "I loved that," because they had perspective during that time that we didn't have as like dumb kids. And so it's definitely people who enjoy looking back on the 80s, who
right.
are driving it because they're feeling that era, you know.
So this is making this your full-time life is going to be where I wish I could go back to some of these major authors and some of these advice they've authored to offer. So I should be writing a book just on that myself, just on authors I've interviewed because I've interviewed tons of New York Times bestselling authors, 10 people that have gotten the biggest deals possible in books. And what they've told me is stay the course, work hard, and if your work sucks, quit
Yeah.
or try or figure out something else to do.
Try something else. Yeah. Hmm.
Or figure out some genre that's going to work.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that's my biggest thing. I went and asked ChatGPT this question. I call her Chatty Cathy in conversational AI. How many authors out of all the authors have successful marketing? What percentage don't? And some of them went percentage. So 90% of authors do not sell at all.
Yeah.
How many self-published? 95%. So how many have potential? And I asked marketing campaigns. I don't know what I asked is I've been marketing for years. And I asked AI that. 20%. People need to get reality that they got to go out and hustle. And the best way to sell your books is in the trunk of your car, getting book signings and going out and seeing the people.
Yeah.
I think that, but
Sure.
that's becoming full time.
Hmm.
You
That's
showing up at the
absolutely
Miami
right.
Book Fair this year. I don't know if you got an invite for that. You should. Miami Book.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know if I get an invite for that one. Okay.
See, Miami Book Fair, LA Book Fair, all the
Mhm.
top book fairs, go to
Yeah.
them. That's the game because you've already found your raving fan based on that one review. Find a million of them and you'll never have to work another day
You're
in
off
your
and
life.
running. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm still have my toe in the door of building that network that you're talking about that I totally understand. If the book is successful, it's going to be because of independent booksellers. That's the
Yeah.
real network of people who make books succeed because
Well, and that's why
they're
Books by
hand
Books and
selling.
going to Miami Book Fair is the book
Mhm.
fair you need to go to. I covered it for X amount of years. I need to reach out to Lisa Palais and say I'm coming back. I don't know what the hell. I'm coming to Miami this time in November. I am back. I want to come back and cover it live like the first year I did it, and it's to celebrate the 15 years that will end up the final run of 15 years doing radio, television, and podcasting.
Wow.
That I've done over 15,000 interviews, but it was very interesting. And I thought this is a great one for people to check out on the radio show side, but also look at this is quintessential. If you're an author and you're having that dreams, you got to see what Travis did. And Travis stumbled upon it, but then in the end, he did it. So that Travis, best place we can go. Book launches when?
June 24th,
I've been
everyone.
getting emails from your publicist over 15 times. So that's another FYI.
Yeah.
Till I finally said yes.
Yeah.
Why? Because I said, this is great. Because guess why I booked you? This is honest to God truth. Paramount.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I have relationship with the publicist I work with on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Everybody else, you get in line.
Right.
So, but I know we're going to see Travis Kennedy, New York Times bestselling author. I believe it. So appreciate it, man. Where are your
Yeah. Neil,
socials?
thanks so
Where
much.
can people check out on all your social media?
You know what? I'm going to send everybody to whitepython.com. It's spelled wrong, WHYTE, because that's rock and roll. And you can find all the social media stuff there, but you can also find a soundtrack that I built around the book and fake interviews with the band. Doubleday has been a blast building this fake world around this band. So if you go there, you can find it all. And I think you can find me from there too. Simple one place, whitepython.com.
All right, you're listening.